Hi, I'm Jill Konrath, and I'm here today with Carlos Quintero, the head of EKG Power out of South Carolina. EKG stands for what, Carlos?
Empathy, kindness, and gratitude.
Wow, that's kind of important skills in today's world, isn't it?
They are. And, I came up with the acronym because I was working with many healthcare companies. And of course, they always think it's electrocardiogram. And the
Yeah,
idea here is that to bring some attention. And of course, kindness is such a big topic, but
yeah.
empathy has to precede it. So EKG stands for empathy, kindness, and gratitude.
So empathy is the one that rules them all, right?
Well, that's where we begin. I think although they are somewhat interchangeable, people would say it starts with kindness, or people would say it starts with gratitude. So they all somewhat all
They're all related.
right.
Yeah, they are. Okay, so what are the skills required for empathy? I mean, I know you've told me there's a lot of them,
There are a
but what?
variety of ones. The one that I like most is called reflective listening.
Yes, that's an interesting term. You want to describe it? What it means?
How would I define it? Reflective listening is the application of both listening and high-level questioning, to seek understanding with the person that you're working with, right? The intent is to have the person that you're talking to gain insight themselves. Your objective in reflective listening is not to solve. Your objective is to listen intently, and what comes to mind with that is passive and active listening skills.
Hmm.
So what do you think are passive listening skills?
Passive listening skills, to me, eye contact.
Aha,
That I
absolutely.
should actually be looking at you as we're talking, as opposed to, go ahead, Carlos, keep talking. I'm paying attention to you. That doesn't do it, does it?
That's right.
Yeah, so that would be the one I would say would be really important. Although I might say that if I turned like this, you might not think I was paying that much attention to you, would you?
No, I think
No.
the posture is very important. Clearly, body movement, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Dedicated attention, um, and being trying to be neutral in your tone, because sometimes your eyes give you away, your posture gives you away. So the first part is what's called passive skills, and those are very essential. The second part is what is called active listening skills. And active listening skills is everything from your tone, the things that you say, and I like to use what's called the three skills called clarifying, interpreting, and summarizing. Clarifying, interpreting, and summarizing.
All three in just a regular conversation with a normal human being. You have to think of all of them, or is there more? I mean,
Sometimes
you
all you need, sometimes all you need is clarifying. The intent
Mhm.
of clarifying is to basically try to understand the other
Try
person.
to, okay.
And by clarifying, you allow them to share their story. It's very important when you're clarifying to help you gain insight. And clarifying is big because that's where you look at the who, what, where, when, why, how,
Mhm.
and that's why it's so important. The challenge of clarifying is that it can come across negatively if you come across too aggressively. Well, what did you do that for? Why did that happen? So you have to be very careful in your tone and when you're asking these questions.
Well, I'm just thinking as you're, saying some of these things that there are some people that when you talk to them, um, jump on you right away in terms and I think one of the hardest things to do as a listener, if you don't agree with somebody, is to not jump
Right.
and to actually really care what they're saying and really trying to understand it. I mean, to me, that is sometimes I have a hard time doing that. I mean, I just want to say you got to be crazy sometimes. I know other people feel that way about me. But I think that's really hard.
It is, and the reason it's hard also, it can come across as an interrogation, right? And so clarifying is intended to learn that the objective is not to problem solve. The objective is to understand. And there are going to be questions like, what issues are you experiencing today? Why is that an issue? Why do you feel that way? How did that come about? Can you tell me more? So that is all clarifying questions. And the objective is for you as the helper not to do the talking. It's for the other person to do the majority of the talking.
And so it's almost like I would think that you would have to, if you really wanted to be good at empathy, you would almost have to think about it ahead of time, that you're going to be in situations, maybe with a specific person or just, in general, where there is a difference of opinion or somebody says something and you want to have a conversation with them and hopefully, somehow accomplish something together in life. But to me, I think I would have to stop and really think about doing that it wouldn't come naturally to me.
Yeah, it may not come naturally, but if you're ahead, if your mindset is around learning, if your mindset is around the other person doing the talking, if your mindset is about not being judgmental and not trying to problem solve at first, then that's very important. Okay. Now we said earlier, it was clarify, interpret, and summarize. All those together can work, and then we can problem solve if we need to.
If we need to. But sometimes it's just enough to just understand and make a person feel like you're interested in their opinion and their thoughts and their life and their whatever they're doing. Just the interest.
And many times what happens when you clarify well is that the other person says, I got it. And that's often what you want, right? Because they came up to some insight as a result of your caring ways, as you're asking non-judgmental questions, and all of a sudden an idea surfaces and that they hadn't thought about. So sometimes that happens. Let's talk to the second skill, interpret.
Okay.
Interpret works hand in hand with clarifying. The objective is for you just not to ask a question and be there bumping a log, just listening in. The idea of interpreting is to try to say things in your own words. So what you're saying, Jill, is that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is that it? Did I get it right? And Jill might say, no, you didn't. Oh,
okay.
Tell me more. So the objective is to interpret along the way as you clarify. You don't say clarify and interpret. Sometimes you can even start the process with interpreting. So what you're telling me, Jill, is this is that. Is that right? Well,
not quite. You're sort of close. I really meant this, and that's how I might respond to you.
Right. Well, I might then say, let me clarify then. In other words, even though we often start with clarifying and then, the truth is there are times when you can even start with interpreting right away and then clarify.
So it's not a rigid format. It really is. The whole goal is to understand and to see where that person is coming from. And I think it's when you do that you can work together to address any of the challenges that you might be facing. And you may just you may just get to know a person over time and learn what they think. But if now you have to suddenly work together on something or want to solve a problem in your community or something, you at least have the relationship to be able to do something like that.
And this happens with your children, with your spouses.
Yes.
In other words, instead of just thinking, well, it's a work thing. No, this is a life skill. Clarifying, interpreting, and summarizing. Let me shift to summarizing. Okay. Summarizing, it may not be needed. Sometimes maybe the other person is just rattling and rattling and rattling and rattling, and you decide, let them rattle, right? Because
I'm out.
well, you may want him to continue. You might say, okay, Jill, let me summarize what I heard. You kind of summarize, and then you go back to clarifying. So sometimes summarizing happens after clarifying and interpreting, and that's normal. Clarify, interpret, summarize. But many times also you could have a situation where the person is heated, is upset, and you want them to vent, and then you might say, let me summarize what I've heard. So somewhat of an interpret and summarize, right? And then you can go to clarify. So the truth is that they're all interchangeable. The natural flow is clarify, interpret, and summarize. Although the beauty of this skill is that it's the foundation of empathy, right? It is how you are communicating to someone that you care, that you're interested in them, that you are sincere, that you're trying to build trust. And those are the reasons why clarify, interpret, and summarize is such a powerful set of skills.
Well, thank you so much. I think that was a good summary of what we've talked about. And it's just such an important life skill too. You know, it's not for just dealing with differences. Like you said, it's an important life skill.
Right. And you know, as much as I may practice the skills and know them and understand them and teach them when I've worked with others, many times I don't do them.
Oh no, don't do that. You mean human too, is what you're trying to tell me, right?
And my wife reminds me.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you have somebody who cares enough about you to keep you on your toes. So thanks so much, and we'll be back shortly.
Thank you.